Welcome to Midnight Mule FPL. I'm Midnight Mule and this is the first video I've done for the 25-26 season, but it's not explicitly for this season, it's to do with FPL and player value in general. So this is a video I've thought about doing for months, but I thought I'd wait until this season's about to start and then I'd put it out there. So let's see what it's about. It may seem a little bit silly, but it is actually very serious and sensible. It just seems a bit silly. Hopefully you can follow it. This would be very boring for some people, but I think there'll be a small number of people that find this a little bit interesting and maybe even a bit thought-provoking. So this video is about player value, and the predicted scores I'm using are from Fantasy Football Scout, and their URL is www.fantasyfootballscout.co.uk in case you want to sign up. I'm not affiliated with them, so if you do sign up, there's no kickback for me, but I have been using them for a few years. And there I am in the video now in the bottom left. I just didn't want to cover up the URL. So what is player value? Quite simply, it's the points you think a player's going to get, or the predicted points, divided by their cost. So greater points means greater value, but then a greater cost reduces the value. So we can look at examples here. So this is from Fantasy Football Scout. Salah, his price at the moment is 14.5 million. They've predicted the scores for the first 6 game weeks, giving him a total of 39.8 points, which gives him a value of 2.7. So that's 39.8 divided by 14.5. What the 2.7 means is for every million you spend on this player, that's how many points you're going to get per million for the first 6 weeks. Now, we obviously don't know what score Salah's going to get. I'm confident it won't be 39.8, but he obviously will get something. Then we have Palmer. He's 10.5 million. His predicted score for the first 6 game weeks 37.9, which gives him a value of 3.6. So for every million you spend on Palmer, that's worth 3.6 points over the first 6 game weeks. Mbuemo, he's 8 million. He's going to get 27.7 points predicted for 6 game weeks. That's 3.5 value. And then Anderson, he's 5.5 million. His game week predicted points is 22, which gives him a value of 4. Now, obviously, captaincy makes a difference to this. If you're going to captain Salah, there it is. If you're going to captain Salah, then his points are doubled, which means his value is also doubled. So Salah would actually be 5.4 if you're captaining him. But for the sake of this video, I'm going to be ignoring captaincy. So you can just remember in your head, oh yeah, but if I captain that player, they're worth more. So I'm going to show this throughout the video, a table like this, which shows the various players we just looked at. So look at the player, the cost, predicted points, and the value. So as things stand for those 4 players, Anderson is the best value. For every million you spend on Anderson, he's going to get you 4 points over the first 6 game weeks. Second best is Palmer. Third best is Mbuemo. Fourth best is Salah. We need to try and remember this because we're going to keep coming back to this table. So using the published prices, we have Salah at 14.5, Palmer at 10.5, Mbuemo at 8, and I know it's really Mbumo, but I like saying Mbuemo. It's just nice to say. And then Anderson at 5.5. And then apart from that, the players we've got Pickford and Raya in goal, both 5.5. 5 million defenders. These were put in by Autofill. Joe Linton at 6 million. And then at the front, Delap, Højlund and Darwin all at 6.5 million. This would be a rubbish team, so don't copy this for your Game 1 team. This is just for illustration purposes. So this is the published prices and you get 100 million. So FPL Towers, beginning the season, they give us 100 million. They set the prices for the 600 plus players and say, you choose your players, you can't spend more than 100 million. And based on that, people are then saying, oh, this player's worth so much value. What if all the players cost double what they do at the moment? So Salah, rather than being 14.5 million, what if he was 29 million? I realise if you're watching this on a phone, it might not be obvious, but I'm overwriting the price here. So Palmer would be 21, Mbuemo 16, Anderson 11, the keepers are now 11, defenders are 10, Joe Linton's 12, and our 3 forwards are 13 million. But if the FPL Towers doubled all the prices, they would obviously double what they give us. They'd give us 200 million. All the players are doubled. We could pick exactly the same squads as we can at the moment. Nothing changes. What does this do to the values? So Salah now costs 29 million, still getting 39.8 points. The value's obviously halved because his cost has doubled. 1.37. Try and stay with me. It'll get interesting in a minute. Same for Palmer. He's now 21 million, so his value's halved. Mbeumo's doubled. His value's halved. Anderson's doubled. His value's halved. But Anderson is obviously still the best value, followed by Palmer, Mbeumo, Salah, because everything's proportional, nothing's changed. Great. Hopefully you're still with me. What if rather than doubling it, FPL Towers decided we're going to make each player 3.5 million cheaper than they are at the moment? Now I realise they haven't done this, but just hang in there, it makes sense. So Salah wouldn't be 14.5 million, he'd be 11 million. Palmer wouldn't be 10.5, he'd be 7. Mbeumo wouldn't be 8, he'd be 4.5. Anderson would be down to 2. The 2 5.5 keepers would be down to 2. The defenders are 1.5. Joe Linton's 2.5. The forwards are 3 million. But obviously now, because all the players are 3.5 million cheaper and we have 15 players, FPL Towers think we won't give them so much money. So 15 times 3.5 million is 52.5 million. FPL Towers would now give us 47.5 million. So if at the beginning of this season, rather than giving us 100, they gave us 47.5 million, but all the players were 3.5 million cheaper, we could all still build the identical squads that we can at the moment. What does it do to the value though? Salah now costs 11, gets 39.8 points. He's got a value of 3.62. Palmer's 7, his value's 5.41. Mbeumo's 4.5, 27.7 points. His value's 6.16. Anderson costs 2. His value's 11. So Anderson is still the best value, but now Mbeumo's the second best value, Palmer third, and Salah fourth. So you need to remember, we've changed nothing about the mechanics of the game, nothing about what squad you could build, and yet the value relative Mbeumo Palmer, who's better, suddenly Mbeumo's better, but nothing in reality has actually changed. Let's do something a bit different this time. What if all the players were 100 million more than they were at the moment? So Salah's not 14.5, he's 114.5. Palmer's 110.5, Mbeumo 108, Anderson 105, etc, etc. All players 100 million more. That means the FPL Towers would want to give us another 1,500 million more. So we wouldn't start with 100 million, we'd start with 1,600 million more, or 1.6 billion to start with. All the players 100 million more. We can still build exactly the same squads as we can at the moment. Absolutely nothing changes. So this is all just the made up figures. Nothing changes at all. How does this affect the value? Salah costs 114 million. His 39.8 points gives him a value of 0.347. Palmer at 110 has a value of 0.342. Mbeumo costs 108 million. His value is 0.256. And Anderson, who's been our favourite all along, he costs 105. He gets 22 points. His value is 0.208. So suddenly Salah's the best value, then Palmer, then Mbeumo, then Anderson. But nothing's changed. As in, the mechanics haven't changed. All we've done is said they gave us more to start with and all the players cost this much more to start with. It doesn't actually change anything. But it gets sillier. So let's take out Palmer and let's put in Raya. Raya costs 5.5 million, predicted 21.4 points. He's got a value of 3.9. So Anderson's the best value, then Raya, then Mbeumo, then Salah. Fine. Here's our starting team. What if FPL Towers decide arbitrarily, actually, all keepers are going to cost 10 million more this season than last season? So now Pickford and Raya wouldn't be 5.5 million, they'd be 15.5 million. But obviously the FPL Towers would give us an extra 20 million. So we'd start with 120 million, but we have to buy 2 keepers, both of which have now gone up by 10 million. Nothing changes. Who can we pick? Absolutely nothing changes here. Everything's exactly the same. So Salah's still got a value of 2.7. Raya now costs 15.5. We'll get 21.4 points. Raya's value's down to 1.4. And obviously Mbeumo and Anderson's not changed. So Anderson's now the best value, then Mbeumo, then Salah. Raya's magically become the worst value. But again, nothing's changed. And the whole point of this video is apart from I find numbers interesting, I've seen several content creators and people out there talking about value. Oh, this player's better value than that player. I'm just like, from your viewpoint, but hang on, these things are so arbitrary, it's not fair to say that. To say that this defender's better value than this midfielder, it's like, are they really? They might be. I'm getting to that. And it can get really stupid. So starting with the published prices, and well done if you got this far. I have no idea if anyone's going to watch this much. Published prices. What if FPL Towers reduced everyone's starting price by 10 million? So Salah wouldn't be 14.5 million, it'd be 4.5 million. Palmer would be 500,000, and Mbeumo wouldn't be 8 million, but minus 2 million. What does that mean? It means if you put Mbeumo in your squad, FPL Towers give you 2 million. That's great. Anderson would be minus 4.5 million, the keeper's minus 4.5, defenders minus 5, Joe Linton minus 4, the forwards minus 3.5 million. So that means the 15 players are all 10 million cheaper. So that's 150 million less that we need to start with. So we wouldn't start with 100 million, we'd start with minus 50 million. Now I realise this sounds all silly, but the point is the math still works. We've done the same treatment to all players. We can still pick exactly the same squads. So now ranking by value. Salah costs 4.5. His value is 8.44. Raya costs minus 4.5. He's got a negative value. So this is just silly now, but the math still works. And Mbeumo has a negative value. Anderson has a negative value. So now once again, Salah's the best value player. Then it's Raya, then it's Anderson, then it's Mbeumo. So if you're going to start doing this yourself, I'd suggest you don't do it such that you get negative numbers for players for their value. Also, you don't have values of 0, because if you divide by 0, you either can't do it or you get infinity, depending on your viewpoint. So if you're going to change the values all the way through to have a different perspective, you don't want to go lower than like minus 0.1. So is there a reasonable approach to this? I think that there is, if you wanted to go to all this work. So for each position, you reduce the price of that player by the cheapest player in that position. So for goalkeepers, the cheapest goalkeeper is 4 million. So all the goalkeepers, you take 4 million off the price. But then you want to add 0.1 million because you don't want to go dividing by 0. So goalkeepers, current price, take away 4 million, add 0.1 million. That means you're taking away 3.9 million from the published price. So for each position, goalkeepers and defenders, the cheapest is 4 million. So you take away 3.9 million from the published price. Midfielders and forwards, the cheapest is 4.5 million. So you take away 4.4 million. If you do this, then each player, the cheapest for each position, is 0.1 million. At the moment, the cheapest goalkeeper is 4, the cheapest midfielder is 4.5. That's completely arbitrary. They're just figures that FPL Towers came up with. They could have made the cheapest 0 or 0.1. But because they've got these constants that you don't go below, suddenly everyone's now saying this value, that value. But it's like, hang on, you're forgetting these constants here. Now, something else to take in mind is, although the cheapest goalkeeper is 4 million, there are no playing goalkeepers at 4 million. Akeju Bravka may go to Burnley, I think it is. The cheapest goalkeeper is really 4.5 million. So goalkeepers, we want to take off 4.4 million. You can get playing defenders for 4 million. So we take 3.9 off them. The cheapest playing midfielder that we're expecting to play is actually 5 million. So the midfielders become minus 4.9. We're really not expecting any forwards to play under 5.5, apart from maybe that the Chelsea guy went to Sunderland or something. So it's fair enough to say the cheapest forward is going to be 5.5 million. So we want to take 5.4 million off the cheapest forward. So what does this look like? Oh, I'll make myself disappear. Hang on. Bang, there I go. So Kelleher, and I've picked 8 popular players, 2 from each position. Kelleher costs 4.5, predicted 18.8 points. His value is 4.2. So that's 18.8 divided by 4.5. That's the current published price. Raya's 5.5 gives him a value of 3.9. Wan-Bissaka, the most popular defender at the moment, cost 4.5 million, 19.8 points, 4.4 value. Frimpong, second most popular defender, time of publishing, he costs 6 points, expected to get 22.8. Salah's most popular midfielder, 14.5 million, his value is 2.7. Kudos is a popular cheap midfielder, 6.5 million, 22.4 points. His value is 3.4. We have João Pedro, most popular forward, 7.5 million. His value is 3.4. Isaac, second most popular forward, 10.5 million. His value is 2.5. So going by the current published prices with the arbitrary constant at the beginning, Wan-Bissaka is the best value, then it's Kelleher, then it's Raya, then it's Frimpong. So from this very small sample, you say defenders and goalkeepers are better value than midfielders and forwards. But adjusting the value, Kelleher goes from 4.5 to 0.1. And that is what FPL Towers absolutely could have done. Make the cheapest player in each position 0.1 million. So his value is actually 188, which is ridiculous. And obviously if Kelleher goes up by 0.1, his value would be halved. Raya would now be 1.1, so a value of 19.45. So what this is saying is for every million you spend on Kelleher in the first 6 game weeks, you'll get 188 points. But of course, you're not spending a million, you're spending 0.1 million. For every million you spend on Raya in the first 6 game weeks, you get 19.45 points. Wan-Bissaka would now be 0.6, so he's 33 value. Frimpong would be 2.1, which is 10.86 value. Salah's 9.6, which is 4.15 value. Kudos is 1.6, which is 14 value. João Pedro would cost 2.1, 11.95 value. Isaac would cost 5.1, which is 5.18 value. So now Kelleher is actually the best value in the system. Then it's Wan-Bissaka, then it's Raya, then actually it's Kudos. And I think that's the end of it. Yep, and then just a stupid image at the end because this was all about value. So if anyone actually made it this far, well done. That was either because maybe you couldn't find the stop button or else you maybe actually just found it interesting. But my point is, I guess it just sometimes irks me a little bit when I see people talking about value and they're comparing this midfielder to this defender. They're forgetting about the constant at the beginning. And it's like, that is really not a fair comparison. So if you have 2 players in the same position and they're the same price, the one with the highest predicted score is better value. If you have 2 players of the same price, or if you have 2 players same position and one's cheaper but it's got better predicted points, that is the better value. Apart from that, you can't reasonably say one player is better value than the other. I don't know if that was any use at all or not. I think a sensible approach, it's not necessarily what I'm going to do, but a sensible approach is choose which player you think is going to get the most points. For example, Salah, maybe Haaland. He's in your team as captain. Then fill the rest with the best value players. Then you can have some money left over. Use that money to change some of those players to high scoring players. There you go. 2 months off and I'm not sure I've actually got any better. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you have a nice final few days before the game week starts. Thanks. Bye.